Brought to you by Narrative Niche. Created and produced by Twisted Wicked Animations. Written by Jason Douglas Kurtz. Needles in. The Needles toll. The fog that rolled off the gray mist river didn't just obscure Wolf Haven. It seemed to breathe it, a living stench that clung to the cobblestones and coiled around the alleyways like a serpent. And in that fog, in the spaces between the flickering gas lamps, lived the thing they called Needles. No one knew his real name. Some said he didn't have one anymore, that the man he'd been had dissolved in the same spoon he used to cook his poison. Needles was not a large man. In fact, he was unremarkable, thin, pale, with eyes the color of dirty ice and hands that trembled perpetually, though not from withdrawal. The tremors were simply him, physical manifestation of the constant, vibrating hunger that lived in his chest. He wore long coats that dragged on the ground, their pockets stuffed with vials and baggies, and his footsteps made no sound. The denizens of Wolf Haven's underbelly claimed he could appear behind you without warning, his breath cold on your neck, his voice a dry rasp that sounded like dead leaves skittering across pavement. Looking for something, he'd whisper, and you'd turn to find him there, offering a palm full of death wrapped in cellophane. His product was legendary and lethal. Needles didn't cut his heroin with baking soda or fentanyl. He used something else, something he cooked in a basement boiler room that no one could find. The high was transcendent, users claimed. A brief flight into heaven before the crash into a hell so deep that many never clawed their way back. Overdoses in Wolf Haven were so common that the coroner stopped issuing names and started issuing numbers. The local paper, the Haven Herald, ran a weekly column titled The Needles Toll, listing the dead like a morbid scoreboard. They tried to hunt him, of course. The journalists sent undercover reporters into the shadows, but they always emerged empty-handed, or they didn't emerge at all. The police had their own grim history with Needles. Detective Dennis Webb had dedicated 3 years of his life to the chase. He'd raided warehouses, flipped informants, and sat in wiretaps for months. Every time he got close, the trail went cold. Even Needles' own crew feared him, and that was by design. They were a motley collection of hollow-eyed junkies and desperate runaways, each one bound to him not by loyalty, but by the chemical leash he kept around their necks. He gave them just enough to function, just enough to keep them loyal, but never enough to satisfy. He called them his sewing circle, a cruel joke at their expense. One October evening, a young woman named Cora, desperate and sick, found herself in her apartment, begging for a fix. Needles appeared from the shadows, his pale face illuminated by a single, buzzing fluorescent light. He looked at her with those dirty ice eyes and smiled, a terrible, lipless smile that showed too many teeth. "Everyone comes to me eventually," he rasped, producing a fresh syringe from his coat. "The police, the journalists, the mothers and fathers. They all want something. They all get it." He held the needle up to the light, watching the amber liquid dance inside the glass. "I always give them more than they bargained for." Cora reached out with a shaking hand. Needles placed the syringe in her palm, his cold fingers lingering against her skin for just a moment too long. "There," he whispered. "Now you're one of my sewing circle." Outside, the fog rolled in thicker than ever, swallowing the tenement, the alley, the whole of Wolf Haven. And somewhere in that fog, a voice like dead leaves rasped a low, terrible laugh that no one heard. Or if they did, they were too wise to follow it. Because following the sound of Needles' voice was the last thing anyone ever did. In Wolf Haven, the darkness had a name, and that name was Enigma. It was always waiting, always hungry, always ready to give you exactly what you thought you wanted. The end. Collect the trading cards. Just go to narrativeniche.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.